السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا بحكمتك وانشر علينا برحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. God, we ask you to open up our hearts to receive your wisdom, and we ask you to spread mercy over us and to benefit us from this meeting and from this conference. علمنا من علمك ما ترضى به عنا اللهم علمنا من علمك ما ترضى به عنا ولا تؤاخذنا بما تعلمه منا يا حليم خلقنا بخلق الحلم وحققنا بحقائق العلم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about Ibn Khaldun, this amazing philosopher of history in our own tradition, and some of the main points that Ibn Khaldun believed to be true of the nature of human society and of civilization. And then I would like to try to apply that Khaldunian perspective to us, the Muslim community of the United States of America and the Muslim community of Canada, the sister community of our own, with a view to answering the question of whether or not we are capable in these countries of reviving the spirit of Islamic civilization. Ibn Khaldun was an amazing human being. And Arnold Toynbee, who was one of the greatest historians of the 20th century and perhaps of all time, was highly influenced by Ibn Khaldun. The basic ideas of Toynbee are Khaldunian ideas, although he reworks it and he reinterprets it. And Toynbee believed that Ibn Khaldun had no peer in history, that there is no genius in human philosophy and sociology that can compare to him. And that's because he saw Ibn Khaldun as this amazing exception, this human being who, seemingly out of nowhere, was able to look at the nature of human society and to lay down laws for it and to try to see how human societies develop, how they grow and how they fall based on general rules. Many Western scholars, like Toynbee, have been greatly impressed by Ibn Khaldun. Robert Foster, who was a notable theologian and historian of the 19th and 20th century, he says in his philosophy of history that Aristotle, Plato, St. Augustine, these great thinkers that really drove Western thought, he said they can only be considered possibly as peers of Ibn Khaldun, but not as superiors. And he said, as for others, other thinkers than Aristotle and Plato and St. Augustine, he said they shouldn't even be mentioned with Ibn Khaldun. Ibn Khaldun believed that human societies are not static. He believed that human societies develop, they flourish, and they fall. but he believed that there are general rules that lead to that. And this is why he's often regarded as the father of modern sociology. And Ibn Khaldun felt that if we want to understand our societies, and if we want to contribute to them, if we want to reform them, if we want to do something positive, then we have to understand something about those general rules. And we have to work in a way that is congruent with those rules. So when we come to look at ourselves as the American Muslim community, then we need to look for some of these factors and to see what they tend to indicate about us, what challenges we face, and also what factors are there to help us, to make it easier perhaps for us to bring Umran to life than it might be for other people. So social, economic, political factors, they can never be neglected. They are very, very important. Ibn Khaldun believed that the individual is not necessarily affected by the same general rules and laws that affect society. So, for example, a society may be very healthy, it may be very moral and upright, but individuals in that society might not be that way at all. They might be very corrupt, very decadent. And the other possibility is also there. It may be that a society is very corrupt and decadent, and yet in that society there are individuals who are upright and who are good. And Ibn Khaldun gives the example of social reformers. And he says that there may be, for example, a social reformer who himself is an exception to the rule, who is good and dynamic. And that social reformer may be able to bring about significant change in a corrupt society. But as a rule, the general decay of that society and the social and economic factors that make it backward, that make it divided, that make it corrupt, they will probably overcome his movement, and they will probably make it eclipse. So therefore, we have to be very aware of the social and economic realities of the times that we live in. When they are positive, we want to use them. We want to benefit from them. And when they present great challenges, then we have to be very much aware of that, and we have to try to work in consonance with it. Ibn Khaldun, I hope I don't lose my voice. I'm having a big problem with my voice. I'm sort of jet-lagged from a trip I took to a country that I love very much, which is Malaysia, but it's like so many hours of travel, it's sort of caught up with me. So pray for me that I can relate to you and that I can get my voice back and communicate the message. Ibn Khaldun refers to civilization by the word that our sister Zainab noted, which is Umran. This is a very beautiful word. He also uses the word hadara, as Sister Zainab noted. Hadara is the word that Arabs today use for civilization. But for Ibn Khaldun, hadara is just a type of civilization. It's an instance of civilization. And it is that mode of Umran which enables people to build towns and cities. And when they have hadara, they have this material civilization of towns and cities, then they can also have states. They can have governments and administrations, bureaucracies, armies. Hadara also produces luxury. And for Ibn Khaldun, luxury is one of the great advantages of civilization, but it is also one of the great dangers, because of the fact that when people live in luxury, and especially if they don't share that luxury and they keep it for themselves, then luxury produces the very seeds of the decay and of the destruction of that society. So for Ibn Khaldun, if you live in a luxurious society, that's certainly the kind of society that we live in today in the United States and Canada, we have to be very much aware of the necessity to use that luxury in a way that is positive and in a way that is thankful and beneficial, and not to be destroyed by it, because luxury will do that. And he felt that luxury was one of the main factors which brings about the decline of civilization after its rise. But Umran is the general word that he uses. And Umran is a Quranic word. In the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal, He tells us that He put us in the earth لِيَسْتَعْمِرَنَا, that He put us in the earth in order for us to bring it to life, in order for us to develop it. So the word Umran is a very beautiful word, and it is that quality of human beings to develop themselves and to develop their environment and to live in harmony with nature and to live in a way that is positive, that makes them flourish and that also makes life around them flourish. And one of the important things about Umran for Ibn Khaldun is that it doesn't need numbers, and it doesn't need cities, and it doesn't need even states. But the essence of Umran is when human beings come together and have solidarity. They have a common sense of identity, or a basic sense of identity that enables them to identify with each other. And then, most importantly, that enables them to cooperate. So the essence of civilization for Ibn Khaldun is our ability to see ourselves as one group, our ability to identify with each other and to like each other and to respect each other, and then to put that into practice through cooperation. So for Ibn Khaldun, this conference of RIS is an example of Umran, because we have a sense of common identity. Of course, we're very diverse. We're racially, ethnically, socially, in terms of economic class, we're diverse, and yet we have a basic foundation of common identity. We see each other as belonging to one entity, and we cooperate. You're sitting in your chairs. We have a certain time that we agreed to be here. You have a certain comportment that you agree to follow. So when the speaker is speaking, you don't talk, for example. And this is all Umran. So Umran just needs a group of people who have a common identity, who have a shared identity, who then work together, who cooperate together, and in that they produce a beneficial society. Umran is the basis of human development. It is the basis of societal development. It's a very beautiful concept. And the thing that destroys Umran is when that basis of social solidarity is broken, when we are divided among ourselves, when we have serious differences, sectarian differences, that means that we don't trust each other anymore. We don't feel compatible with each other anymore. And when that happens, then the Umran is broken, and it may never be put together again. So, how do we apply this to us? First of all, if we look at the Muslim community of the United States and of Canada, we have many factors that are very positive. We're free. We're able to speak our minds. We're able to carry on a discourse. We're able to write and to publish. We are able to move. So I come from Chicago. Some of us come from New York. Most of us come from California and the West. But we're able to come here and to gather here and to be here together. And our community, the Muslim community of the United States and of Canada, are extremely diverse. No question about that. We represent everything in the world. Every ethnic and social group in the Muslim world is also here, represented. All the races of the world are here. All the social classes and economic classes are here. So we're very diverse, and that is a challenge. That is a huge challenge to social solidarity. But at the same time, we live in a society which is basically a very good society. It is a society in which people are taught, and people also see instances over and over again in their individual and civic life of care for the society, care for the well-being of the group. It's not a completely selfish society. It's a society in which most people acknowledge that society has rights over them. That's very good. It is a society in which there is a strong element of cooperation. There is a strong element of the respect of the other. And we, as Muslims who live in the United States and Canada, we absorb these values. They are, of course, Islamic values. They are prophetic values. But if we come from societies in which these values are not respected, which unfortunately is the case in many Muslim countries today, and when there is extensive oppression and extensive corruption, then these values become just words that people say. They become exercises in hypocrisy, but they don't really affect us. And we know that in practical life we can't apply them. So that harms us very greatly. That is a huge social challenge. So in this society, there is a lot of social health. And many of us bring that to us, with us to the table. And we have to be thankful for that. So in fact, by Allah Azza wa Jal bringing us together in the United States and in Canada, that was a great act of mercy on His part, and it's also very transformative because it gives us the ability to have a new vision. And you can say very correctly that that vision is the authentic Islamic vision, of serving society, helping the other, and so forth. But the fact is that if we don't have the right social circumstances, it's not going to work. Those social circumstances will destroy that value. They will militate against it and make it very difficult to make it into a meaningful reality. So that's something that we have very much in our favor. Perhaps the greatest challenge we have is the fact that we are so diverse, so racially diverse. In the United States, at least 1/3 of our community is black. And most of that 1/3 of the community lives in the inner city. And the inner city, by and large, is an urban hell in which the advantages of education, economic possibilities of development are very, very few. And this is a huge challenge to us. The other part of our community, the other 60%, the other 70%, by and large, is much better to do. We have the advantages of the educational system. We have the cultural mechanisms in our families and our communities to take advantage of that educational system. And we are, by and large, highly educated. The average Muslim American and the average Muslim in Canada has a higher educational level than the average white American. And because we have that also, we tend to have, many of us, a very adequate economic foundation, and that's very important. For Ibn Khaldun, if we were to talk about the inner city, for example, and we must build the inner city, and we must join hands with our brothers and sisters in the inner city. But to talk about that, just in terms of abstract ideas and the beauties of Islam and brotherhood, and not to talk about economics, not to talk about skills and professions, not to talk about education, not to talk about crime, not to talk about health, that's absurdity. You know, anything that is going to work in the inner city, it's got to address these problems very consciously, very effectively, and it's got to understand that however much the individual Muslim may be different from those around him or around her, that if we do not address these powerful and often very negative social factors, we will not succeed. In Chicago, we have an organization that I think everyone here knows, and that is Iman, the Inner City Muslim Action Network. We also have another group on the north side called Ummah, which is essentially doing the same thing. And there are other groups like this in the United States and Canada. And the kind of work that they're doing is something that we really need to focus on. And we really have to understand how important that is. And it's not surprising to me that the visionary behind Iman, who is Rami Nashashibi, is trained in sociology. In other words, he's trained in the legacy of Ibn Khaldun. So therefore, he understands very well that if we are to do something that is actually effective in the inner city, it's got to take into account the social and economic factors. It cannot be just preaching. It cannot be just ideas. On June the 19th in Chicago, and I hope that a lot of you will be able to come, we have an amazing event that occurs every 2 years, and this is called Taking It to the Streets. I'll clap for that too. And I'll be there, inshallah. And the whole week, you know, it'll be great. We'll have film festivals and everything. But taking it to the streets, you know, one of the things that it does, and this may or may not be apparent, is that it is designed to bring the whole community together. It's designed to introduce the Muslims that are well-to-do, the immigrants and the sons and daughters of immigrants and the grandchildren of those people and of other converts and the people who live in the suburbs and who do well, you know, with the Muslims of the inner city and with the realities of the inner city. And also because Taking It to the Streets presents some of the greatest artists that are available in spoken word and hip-hop and rap and other forms of the arts, it attracts a huge participation from people all over Chicago. Probably this year, inshallah, taking it to the streets, we expect to have maybe as many as 20,000 people. And I would estimate that anywhere from around a fifth of those are probably non-Muslims. And they come and they see a picture of Islam, of the Muslim community, of the diversity of our community, which is really amazing. And pray for us that taking it to the streets succeeds, that Allah protects us from all harm, and that this year will be as great or greater than all the years before. But this kind of an event, I would say, is a Khaldunian event, because it is designed to fit into the social and the economic and the class realities of American society, and to try to find a way that we can negotiate our Islamic identity in that context. Now, to conclude, how do we get solidarity? Of course, Iman, taking it to the streets, that is an example of a very positive and a very imaginative and a very Islamic, in my view, way of seeking to find the basis of solidarity. But how do we do that in general? This is a very important question. So we'll finish with that question. And before I do that, I'd just like to reflect a little bit on the way that Ibn Khaldun, Allah have mercy upon him, influenced Arnold Toynbee, the great English historian. Arnold Toynbee believed that the dominant force in history is the minority. And he takes this directly from Ibn Khaldun. He takes this directly from Ibn Khaldun's notion of solidarity. And so Toynbee, when he looks at human history, he says that history is the history of minorities. And that doesn't mean that every minority is historically influential. But what it means is that minorities, by their nature, they often have the ability to galvanize societies. And that is when the minority becomes conscious of itself. And when the minority becomes creative. And I would say that Iman and taking it to the streets is an example of an extremely creative Muslim minority, one that I am proud to be associated with, and I hope that you would be too. And I think that American society in general would be. And this is what we must be. We are a minority. We are a ummah. We are a community. That's true. But we are from 1 to 2% of the American population. That, of course, makes us a significant group. We are how many million? Probably at least 7 million, maybe more than that. But this minority status that we have, this is actually one of our sociological advantages. Because this enables us, this gives us a group to work with, which is substantial. Okay, we are a large group of people, but not too large. And it enables us to get to know each other. It enables us to have discourse. And it enables us, especially in the American context and in the Canadian context, to seek to discover who we are in this time. And we live on the cutting edge of modernity. You understand modernity probably as well as anyone in the world. You work in it. You are trained in it. You live it. You breathe it. So this means that we understand the elements of the human challenge that is before not just Muslims but everybody today. We are gifted, we are talented, we are creative, we are young, and we are a minority which, if we rise to the challenge, we can make ourselves creative. And then we can be a vanguard in this society. And that is definitely what we should be. We should be a vanguard. We don't want to just protect ourselves. We don't want just to transmit Islam to our children. We have to do that, and that's a big challenge. It's very difficult. We need to get really good at that. One of the best ways to get good at that is to begin to reach out, to begin to affect the society as a whole, to be dynamic, because that affects the way that our children look at us. But this minority status that we have is something which is very much to our advantage. And we have to galvanize it. And we should not be bothered by the fact that maybe our numbers are not as great as we would like them to be. Again, for Ibn Khaldun, numbers are not essential. What is essential is the quality and the integrity of the people who make up that community to come together, to have solidarity, and to cooperate, to have a vision. So we ask Allah to give us that. In Islam, how then do we get this solidarity? One of the great things about RIS and about ISNA and about many other groups in the United States and Canada is the fact that we welcome all Muslims. You know, we're not just a particular school. We're not just a particular interpretation of Islam. And this is something which is very essential for the way that we define ourselves in going forward. And I would like to mention a paper that I wrote, which is available on our website, the Nawawi Foundation. And our website is www.nawawi, which is named after Imam an-Nawawi, NAWI.org. And if you go to our reading room, our learning and reading room, we have some articles, Islam and the Cultural Imperative, which I suggest that you look at. And we have another one called Living Islam with Purpose. And in Living Islam with Purpose, one of the 5 operational principles that it talks about is respecting dissent. And that is the basis of our solidarity. How does that work? This is essentially a jurisprudential principle that Muslim fuqaha agree upon, that we have consensus upon. And if you want to go into greater detail, I suggest that you look at it in that paper, Living Islam with Purpose. But our principle in Islam is that, first of all, Islam is not black and white. The foundations of Islam are. The foundations of Islam, which are those things which we in legal language call qat'iyat. Those aspects of the religion that are categorically authoritative, such as the fact that we believe in one God, who has no partner, who has no son, who has no likeness. And we believe in the continuity of prophecy. And we believe that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best of all creation, the crown of all creation, is the last of all prophets. And we believe in the day of judgment, and we believe in the fire, and we believe in the garden, and we believe that we must pray 5 times a day, and that we must fast in Ramadan, and that we must make pilgrimage, and we must give charity. And we believe that certain things are halal and good, and we believe that other things are haram and forbidden. And we seek to do the halal and to live the halal, and we seek to avoid the haram. These fundamentals are black and white. These are very clear cut. and we all agree on the fundamentals, whether we are Malikis, whether we are Hanafis, whether we are Hanbalis, whether we are Shafi'is, or whether we don't belong to those schools, but we're just Muslims. These are things we agree on, and this must be the basis of our solidarity. And this means that everything else that is not a fundamental, these we call dhanniyat, because they are not categorically proven, they are not conclusively proven in the Quran and Hadith. They have proofs, but they also have other proofs, and the proofs have different interpretations. So these dhanniyat are presumptively authoritative. They are presumptively authoritative. And these are the matters of dissent. And they pertain to things like music. They pertain to things like art. They pertain to things like whether I raise my hands like this in prayer, or put them here, or put them down, or if I do sadl and put them by my side. All of those are valid positions. And all of them are positions that have some proof in the Quran and Hadith, whether I am aware of it or not. It is there. So these must not be issues. Things that pertain to festivities and, to different things that we do in our community, the way we pray and so forth, we agree on the fundamentals. And we hold to that. And that is the basis of our solidarity. But when it comes to the other things that are peripheral, that may be extremely important, and they may be utterly true, but here we have to acknowledge the right of dissent, that you have the right to agree with me, and you have the right to disagree with me. But you cannot condemn me because I differ with you on that presumptively authoritative matter. And this is the basic adab. This is the basic courtesy that makes us a civilized people. And this is that quality that enables us to all be together, because we agree on what we hold in common, the foundational principles of Islam, that we all agree on. And then we agree to disagree on so many other issues, most of fiqh, most of Islamic law, in any school, the Hanafi school, the Maliki school, the Shafi'i school, the Hanbali school, or any other school. Most of fiqh is dhanniyat. Everyone who studied jurisprudence knows that. Most of it is presumptively authoritative. And that's why we tolerate each other. That's why we can live with each other. And a sectarian in Islam, a divider of the community, is any person who, out of ignorance or ill intent, takes things that are marginal, that are presumptively authoritative, and insists that everyone must agree on his or her position regarding that. That's something that we cannot do. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He give us an enlightened and authentic understanding of our beautiful tradition, and one that enables us to accept each other on the fundamentals that we agree on, and to respect each other, and to have courtesy with each other in all these other things. And anything in Islam that is presumptively authoritative. Do I raise my hands like this? Do I raise my hands like this? Do I do it like this? Or do I not raise them at all? That's all presumptive. And a person who raises his hands like this, he has a strong position. And a person who raises them like this has a strong position. And one who raises them like that has a strong position. And we all accept each other and we all respect each other. And we must understand that anything that pertains to the presumptive, the dhanniyat, it is a non-issue. It cannot be made an issue. We will talk about so many things, and I can give you my opinion and you can give me yours, but the totality of Islam is not monolithic. We have a foundation that we agree upon, and then we have many things around that in which we have legitimate differences, and this is what makes us creative, and this is what makes us truly civilized. We ask that Allah Azza wa Jal teach us what benefits us. And we ask Him that He enables us to put this into practice. The speech of Sister Ata'Allah Shabazz yesterday was a beautiful speech, and I love the way that she engaged the audience. But you notice that one of the things that she, in the spirit of her blessed father, Allah have mercy upon him, was doing was to get us to practice. Like she had us introduce each other, shake the hands of the person next to us. She told us how to respond to people that we see and so forth. That this is really important. You know, we are told in the Islamic tradition, La ilma bila amal, wa la amala bila ilm. There is no knowledge without practice. You know, knowledge is not just something we memorize. Knowledge is not just something we talk about. If we don't practice it, it is not knowledge at all. We have to practice what we learn. وَلَا عَمَلَ بِلَا عِلْمٍ. And there is no practice without knowledge. In order for us to practice correctly, of course, we have to be enlightened. We have to know this religion, this beautiful religion of ours. اللهم وفقنا لما تحبه وترضاه وجعلنا من عبيدك السعداء وأمتنا على كلمة الهدى علمنا ما ينفعنا ووفقنا للعمل بما علمتنا به واجعل ما نحن فيه خالصا مخلصا لوجهك الكريم يا رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والسلام عليكم.